Hey guys, welcome back. Today is Wednesday and you are again going to get another lesson on sequence. So your goal for this week is going to be to explain events in a text based on the order in which they occur. So you're basically going to be putting the events in where it all began into a timeline. And you're going to be putting them in the order that they happened. So we talked about this last week. Sequence is a text structure and it helps tell the text in an organized fashion. Now, authors use sequence to show information in time order. So they tell you things that happened first, next, then, and last. Sometimes they use keywords like next, then, finally, or they also use the dates to give the sequence that things happen. So here's your hint, and I kind of talked a little bit about it right now. You're going to be looking for signal words. So you're looking for words like first, next, last, finally, and like I mentioned, those specific dates so you can put the events in order. Now, we're going to be going through page 367, and we're going to be putting the events in order in which the way they happened. So we're going to be looking at 4 main events, and we're going to put them in order, like I mentioned, in time sequence. So we'll be telling the things that happened first. We'll be looking for those key words, maybe like first, finally, next, then, and even those dates. So let's take a look at page 367 so we can see the events that are happening on that page. So before we start listing the events on our map, we're going to reread page 367. We've been talking about it this entire school year, that good readers, they reread information more than once so they are sure that they are comprehending the text thoroughly. So let's go ahead and listen to page 367 one more time before we start listing the events in sequence.
Take a tour of Jamestown, Virginia, the birthplace of America. They thought they were lost. The Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery had sailed from London, England on December 20th, 1606. The expedition was bound for Virginia, carrying 144 people. Finally, on April 26, 1607, the ships sailed into Chesapeake Bay. In the words of one voyager, they found fair meadows and goodly tall trees. On an island in a river, they built a fort and named it after their king, James. Jamestown would become the first successful, permanent English settlement in the New World. The struggle to survive. There is a proverb that says, "Ignorance is bliss." In the case of the 104 men and boys who came ashore, this was true. They were faced with tremendous challenges. The water from the James River was not safe to drink, and food was scarce. 2 weeks after the settlers arrived, 200 Indians attacked them, the building of the Jamestown settlement in 1607.
All right, so you got to listen and hopefully reread that section, and I wanted you to think of events that were happening in order. So remember, you were supposed to be looking for keywords like next, then, finally, and even those dates. So as you were listening, you probably were paying attention to that first paragraph, and you noticed right off the bat there's the date, December 20th, 1606. That would be one event that you would want to list. That keyword finally is in there, which also signals another important event, and that happened on April 26th when the ships sailed into Chesapeake Bay. Okay, so you have that exact date right there. That signals that something happened. Now, as you kept reading, you were supposed to look for other things that happened. And the next thing that happened as you went on, if you kept going, this is all great information, but it's not necessarily things that we're going to include in our sequence. And if you continued on to the struggle to survive, you would have noticed that the next thing that happened was 104 men and boys, they came ashore. So although that doesn't have those exact words like next, then, and finally, that's an important event that has happened. Sorry guys, I got really quiet because Nash just took like 3 or 4 crawls. So it was his very first crawl during one of our lessons. Oh my goodness. Sorry guys. Okay, so let's keep going. Again, we had said that you want to look for those signal words and those keywords that had happened, or maybe dates of time, and you can tell right here, 2 weeks later also signals an event in time where the settlers were attacked. So let's head over to our sequence map, and let's go ahead and put those events in order. All right, Aggies and Buckeyes, I went ahead and I pulled up the story side by side along with our thinking map so we can go ahead and put those events in order. So we did talk about in December 20th, 1606, we had 3 ships sail from London, and we found that information right here in this paragraph. We noticed the date right here, and that told us that that was something that happened first. So we'll go ahead and sequence these events in our own words. Remember, we don't want to copy the text exactly because we want to save ourselves some time, but we also want it to be our own work. So let's go with 3 ships sailed from London in 1606. So that will be our first event that has happened in the text so far in that section. Now remember, we're still looking for either dates or signal words to tell us what's happening. So as we keep going, we know that finally there's that key word to signal something's happening in a sequence. Here is the date, April 26, 1607, and what happened there? The ship sailed into Chesapeake Bay. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And we'll put on April, and let's just shorten it so we save some time, April 26th, 1607. Ships sailed, whoa, Miss Valades, work on your typing, sailed into, into Chesapeake Bay. So that's something else that's very important. Again, we noticed those dates and that word finally. So we have 2 other events that we're going to list that were important. And let's kind of just follow through and see what happens. In the words of one voyager, they found fair meadows and goodly tall trees. Good information, but doesn't necessarily signal something important's happening. On an island in a river, they built a fort and named it after their King James. Jamestown would become the first successful permanent English settlement in the New World. Again, that's amazing information. It gives me lots of background, but I don't need to include that into my sequence. So let's keep going and let's see another event that happened after 1607. There is a proverb that says ignorance is bliss. In the case of the 104 men and boys who came ashore, this was true. So yes, that also is another important information. 104 men and boys came ashore. And now we have one last event that we're going to be looking for. And let's see what that event is going to be. Remember, we're looking for those key words. Finally, next, then, and dates. So if we keep going, they faced tremendous challenges, right? So some very big challenges were their way. We know the water wasn't safe. Their food was scarce, which meant that they didn't have much food to eat. And 2 weeks after the settlers arrived, 200 Indians attacked them. So there you go right there. Here is another thing that has happened in time. 2 weeks later, the settlers were attacked. So we'll go ahead and put that in there also. 2 weeks Later, the settlers were attacked and that's going to sum up all of our events that happened on page 367. Remember, we have listed them in the order in which they occurred. We took all of the events that were important in here, which had to do with the birthplace of America, and we listed them in the order that they happened. All right, boys and girls, so now it is your turn to practice sequence of events on your own. You're going to head over to Wonders and you're going to complete pages 243 to 245. When you get there, you will be reading a short text and then answering some questions. Your questions have to do with sequence of events. As always, you're only completing part A and you may skip part B. Head over to Wonders now to complete your assignment. And I will talk to you tomorrow with another lesson. Have a good one.